time is just like Kennedy. We all know the truth. We know that this document released by the Trump administration is complete bullshit. And I guess that maybe, just like with the Kennedy assassination, they expect us to just get over it in a period of time. And I genuinely think it's incumbent on anybody who was either supportive of the president, any United States citizen, to say no. We demand like absolute and total transparency on this case, and particularly of these government officials. Do not use your platform to enrich yourself on these podcast platforms and constantly talk about Epstein and the Epstein files, eventually assume office, change on a dime, and expect
Welcome on into another episode of the Healthy Discussion Show, and today we're talking about how things are actually getting worse. The cover-up is getting worse, have gotten worse, because they say one thing last week, they say something else this week. They say they don't have the files, they say that they have the files. They say they don't have any footage, but a minute and a half of the footage was taken away. They said that Epstein got he committed suicide. Come to find out, he got killed. The inmates that was actually in Epstein's cell or around his pods, right? They got transferred. They can't say anything. It's classified information. I'm coming to the conclusion that Epstein is a government agent, right? I'm coming to that conclusion. But let's continue. Let me know what you guys think. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, leave your comments down below. I really would like to know what you think, and share this video as well.
Us to trust you. That is not how this works. No. And in particular, in that document, I think it's one of the most disgusting documents ever released by the United States government, because it said there was no blackmail, we're not releasing this information. Kash Patel has this new line about how we're not going to re-victimize women. Ask the Epstein victims themselves. They have been begging for this information to come to light, specifically to implicate the powerful men that victimized them, and through which they were, they were basically used for trafficking purposes to ensnare them in this.
My thing is this, right? Where do all these kids go that end up missing every year? Millions of kids. Where do they go? It's an agenda. They just don't walk out the house. Some do, most don't. We're talking about the majority here, not the minority. Where are these kids at? Where are these kids going? You got to think about it like that, right? What are they covering up? Does it lead back to the actual three-letter agencies? I believe that it do. Also, did you guys know that we can talk about, in Israel, right? Because everything is connected there for some reason, right? But he's going to explain later on in the video. But you can't get a DNA test in Israel, because you will find out that you're really Europeans. You're not the original Jews that you wrote the Bible about, that you put in your own version of the Bible, which has been edited millions of times. Then you don't want to come across as being anti-Semitic. Then you begin to question yourself, like, what is that? That's a term just to protect someone or a group of people from doing harm to another group of people, but yet they're righteously empowered in order to do it. What? Huh? But what about these other groups of people that have been killed, slaughtered, land taken from, all of these things, right? You can't speak on their behalf, but it's okay to speak on their behalf, saying, oh, you can't be anti-Black or anti-Blackinism. No, it's not a word, but I'm just trying to get you guys to understand what's really going on out here. Can we talk about it? Well, let's discuss, right? Because I see, and why another thing that I made a connection to is you can actually go to Israel, be a pedophile, and they will actually forgive you over there, and you get to live amongst the land. So everyone is using that as an escape route. Not everyone, a certain community is using it as an escape route. When they get in trouble, when they touch these kids, when they do these trafficking ideas, they go over there and nothing happens to them. What? But yet we're so focused on Diddy. Yikes. You understand what I'm saying? When they say, they always tell you to look to the left and they doing something to the right, or pay attention while they doing something behind your back. let's continue. I think the American people are tired of it. In fact, I think the world is tired of it, right? Because that's the energy that it's getting.
High-level U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence operation, probably run in conjunction. And the trail of this entire thing it enrages me. It actually enrages me as an American.
I don't think you're alone.
I don't think you're alone.
This game.
Right? As a collective, we're tired of it.
And I do think, as someone who voted for the president, campaigned for the president a lot, I'm not attacking the president, but I think even people who are fully on board with, the bulk of the MAGA agenda are like, this is too much, actually.
Yes.
I'm saying that with love, and I hope that they're listening, because I think this threatens to blow up the whole thing. But let's just back up a little bit and just pick at some of the inconsistencies here. So you're saying that Pam Bondi said on camera, we have a client list.
On the White House lawn.
I've seen the client list.
Yes.
And then yesterday she's saying there's no client list.
There's no client list. And there was no systematic blackmail. That actually might be the most preposterous line in the document.
You heard what just happened. Last week she said it was something there. Let me repeat it for the people that's just coming in. Y'all got to see what's going on. Hypocrisy.
We have a client list.
On the White House lawn.
I've seen the client list with love, and I hope that they're listening, because I think this threatens to blow up the whole thing. But let's just back up a little bit and just pick at some of the inconsistencies here. So you're saying that Pam Bondi said on camera, we have a client list.
On the White House lawn.
I've seen the client list.
Yes.
And then yesterday she's saying there's no client list.
There's no client list. And there was no systematic blackmail. That actually might be the most preposterous line in the document.
But it doesn't make any sense. So they've said that there were thousands of young people, in some cases minors, underage children, sexually victimized. Are they saying that Epstein single-handedly had sex with all? Because actually, for whatever it's worth, I don't think I've never seen anyone make the claim that Epstein had sex with anybody.
Yes, that's right. Well,
because it's bigger than Epstein. You got to understand, Epstein was just the handler. He was just the handler. It's bigger than Epstein. Epstein had people in politics, basically like Diddy. No Diddy. Except Diddy had adults, and they consented to these things. Epstein didn't have adults that consented to these things. It would have been a RICO with Epstein. It would have been that. So think about it like that, right? He had kids, young women. It was a hush-hush situation because everyone is involved, from politics to the three-letter agencies to the so-called Jewish community, to everyone was involved. All to the rich class, everyone was involved. This was a worldwide operation. This man had owned an island. What do you think? And then word on the street is that Epstein is actually an asset to the government agency, which means that the government was involved, which means that the three letters was involved. Wake up, people. Wake up. The writing is right on the damn wall. The writing is on the wall. Wake up, people. And to me, they're doing it right in front of your face.
A lot of these allegations revolve around like group activities,
right,
and they around like masseuse and being, look, the way that Dershowitz and others would claim it is I kept my underwear on and it was all very above the board massage information. There's that famous photo of Bill Clinton in the airport terminal with one of these young victims who herself says she was a victim of the Epstein entire machine. So you're exactly right. It's like, for these thousands of women, were they victimized entirely by Ghislaine Maxwell and by Jeffrey Epstein? Because, by the way, that's not even what the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein court documents and other things that we already knew that were in the public information. That's not what they say. That's not what the testimony of the victims of these people say. And so, again, even this client list thing, and I do think people can go down the rabbit hole too much and think that there is, as you know, there's no ledger, as right, in exactly. Client had sex with so-and-so, and we because
the client list is made up because everyone's involved. That's what the client list. That's right. Like, oh, he went here, he went there. Just follow the money. Follow the money. That's the client list you need to know. And damn, they even say even the banks was involved. Deutsche Bank, one of the oldest and richest banks in the world. Y'all study the family. So you be like, whoa, Oh no, ancient history is involved with this one, at least the history that they wrote and they told, right? Because we all know that it's BS. But let's continue with the program. Can we talk about it?
Of that supported Israel. Like, that's not how it
So
works.
the term client list itself is misleading. You're
It's
saying.
misleading because really what we want is a full list of the victims, of the people who flew on the flight logs. But the most important is the money. And I think a lot of people actually miss that.
Pause. Even the flight log was deleted. So you know what's going on. Big money is involved. Once the flight logs are deleted, meaning that they know where you at, who you with at all times, don't they? Why they don't know that? I don't get it, because they don't want to know it. They don't want to know it. They know it, but they don't want you to know that they know it.
In the Epstein story, Jeffrey Epstein came to power largely because he worked at Bear Stearns and effectively was like a high finance money laundering expert. That's effectively what we can learn from his background. That's how he came involved with Leon Black. Leon Black was one of the most powerful men in New York, and this is the head of the Apollo Group. He paid him $170 million through various shell corporations for tax advice. And when he was caught doing that, he was said, actually, it wasn't even useful because all the tax advice was actually in the public domains. What? I mean, Leslie Wexner in the 1991, I believe, signed full power of attorney over to Jeffrey Epstein. He was one of the richest men in America. I think he was the richest man in Ohio at that time. Jeffrey Epstein becomes the head of the Wexner Foundation, funnels some $2.5 million to Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. I'm putting these things out there because I want people.
I have to know what's going on. Everything, all roads leads to Israel. It don't lead to Rome. And if you study Israel, you'll be like, well, damn, that's just another Roman Empire. It's still Euro. So maybe all roads do lead to Rome, aka Israel. Kind of makes sense to me.
To know that the money is an integral part of the operation, and to the extent that the sex trafficking and all of that is linked, they are fused together because they were used primarily by the intelligence community. Both Epstein was a conduit of high stakes money laundering for things like.
Did you just say intelligence community? These three-letter agencies that I've been saying for so long, everyone is involved. You're not gonna hide something that you don't have anything to do with now, are you? I'm just thinking about human behaviors here. Psychology, just to name a few. Only a hit dog holler, right?
Like, not Iran-Contra specifically, but let's say like funneling arms from Israel to Iran. This was also how he met eventually Robert Maxwell and became ensnared with his daughter, Ghislaine.
Oh, did you say smuggling? So these men was arm dealers. Kind of makes sense. What agencies? Don't you think that these agencies sell guns too? Sell ammunition? We go to war, but then you feeling both. You're aiding both sides of the war. Y'all know the principle: the snake ate his tail. Masterminds create their own problems and solve it at the same time. Right? You create a disease, but then you also create the vaccine. Starting to make sense to me. Connect the dots, people. Connect the dots.
Maxwell, the money laundering is actually more key to his intelligence rules.
From Israel to Iran.
Well, this was a key part of the Maxwell story. Robert Maxwell is a very sketchy character. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. People focus on the tabloid.
Stop using ChatGPT for your thesis.
Very much so. Guys, let me know what you think about this. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this one. Let me know what you honestly think about this one. I think it's BS and they think we stupid.
I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the fact that he's this Czechoslovakian Orthodox Jew who escapes from the Nazis. He eventually becomes a highly decorated soldier. Actually, I think he won the second highest medal in the UK for his operations during World War II. From that point forward, becomes very, very enmeshed with the Zionist community inside of the UK and propping up the newly formed state of Israel. From that point,
you're going to keep on hearing Israel. You're going to keep on hearing which is connected, which is the Jews. You're going to keep on hearing the Zionist agenda. People, look that up when you get a chance. Look at what a Zionist is, and you will see what type of time we are on in this world. We would see. It's filthy and disgusting to me.
Forward, he basically serves as a high stakes, like almost an entity in and of itself. That's the way that Daryl Cooper has described him, is like a sovereign wealth fund almost, which with together brokers all kinds of cutout deals, between Israel and Iran. And actually, Epstein himself, when he was just 28 years old, he flew on a private jet, I believe, to the Pentagon with somebody who we know is directly linked to these, previous intelligence operations and funneling money and weapons into many of these conflicts. So this stretches back decades, and that's a very, very important part of the story. So please just do not tell me that there's no part of a systematic blackmail campaign. It's so preposterous, and it actually just makes me want to tear my hair out. And I guess the only good news is that, just like with the Kennedy assassination, we do all know the truth.
So we want to brag, but this has got to be the most...
We do know it. It's BS. We're going to skip this one. Right? He's doing his little promo or endorsements. Let's go.
What they call the credibility gap under the Johnson administration, where prior to the 1960s, Americans trusted their government. It was actually a beautiful thing. I mean, it was bad in some.
After 1971, I stopped. I wasn't even born then or thought about. But once I do my little research, I said, you know what? We done with the government. There's no way, because they've been stealing from you since day one. They got the women dependent on the government and thinking that they independent when they dependent on the government. Never got that part. And they're emasculating the men in all sorts of ways, shapes, or form. From the food, they're actually using the woman against the men. It's called chess to me. They shaved off. On 1971, President Nixon took the gold off the that backed the dollar. They took it off the market, which means that they was taking your money at that point, right? Which means you wasn't working for nothing. All these fiat currencies. This is why I'm big into Bitcoin, big into DeFi, big into cryptocurrency, because I understand that's the only thing that can actually hold one accountable for their actions, right? So after that point, and I realized that drop drug off in your community, all the so-called plug lords, or the people with the they sell death to our community. So all of these other things you begin to say it's government based, but yet they want us to trust them when they don't show us any form of reason why we should trust them. It's like they lie to us so much, right? That it's like, and judging by their actions, right? They said forget us in so many different ways, right? Right? But yet they want us to be law-abiding citizens. I never really got that part. But let's continue. I don't trust them at all, right? The only person I trust is myself and God and myself. And God.
Ways as well, we were taken advantage of by the Dulles brothers and a lot of other horrible things they were doing in the 1950s. But it was beautiful in the sense of social and of civic trust.
Yeah.
And that's on God. Let's get it.
Something was broken with the Kennedy assassination. And then it was extended, of course, into the war in Vietnam. And we've never been the same since. And all the Trump administration, elected on the backs of a lot of these people who want more transparency in government, saw a lot of this corruption, to just turn around and do the same thing. It's just too much. It's too much for me, and I think it's too much for a lot of other people.
I remember thinking when Epstein killed himself, I never met Epstein, but I mean, he, knew everybody. I mean, I will say, in his, in the defense of people who got caught up in this because they went to dinner at Epstein's, like that George Stephanopoulos, for example, who I disagree with on everything, but like